This is the Earth Science Classroom. Welcome back to the channel. This video is one of the virtual field trips in our series, and today we're going to explore the beautiful and amazing sand dunes on the Outer Banks in Nags Head called Jockey's Ridge State Park. It's one of the state parks in North Carolina, and it is a combination of a four sand dune field in the middle of the Barrier Islands known as the Outer Banks in North Carolina, and just let's go and check it out. So as a point of reference, this is where the state park is located, in the Outer Banks in Nags Head in North Carolina on the eastern seaboard in the mid-Atlantic of the US. So this is the entrance of 158, and it's very easy to get to on any direction when you go to on the Outer Banks. And the entrance to the sand dunes and the trail is right there by the parking lot.
Everyone, we are here at Jockey's Ridge State Park in North Carolina. This is a large natural area of actually forests, pathways, and also we're here for the sand dunes. The sand dunes are the largest on the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. Now there are bigger ones out west, there are bigger ones in the Middle East, but here on the east coast of America, these are the biggest sand dunes we have. Now they are formed a certain way. They're on the Barrier Islands of the Outer Banks here in North Carolina. And it's a beautiful area, beautiful landscape, and perfect to check out some geography and also some geology and how these 4,000-year-old sand dunes came to be formed. And about 1.8 million visitors per year experience this beautiful area in North Carolina.
So as we start this awesome virtual tour of Jockey's Ridge State Park with the amazing sand dunes, we go through this cool little pathway, and the sand's usually kind of cool under the shade, and that opens up into this larger, obviously, state park, and you can kind of trek through the vegetation and these small pathways. Be careful, the sand does get hot during the summer and late afternoon, so make sure you have some sort of footwear that can withstand the temperature of the sand. And up this cool hill, you can choose a more gentle way to get to the sand dunes, but I always like to challenge myself and go up this really steep hill, which is kind of a cool exercise on the very loose yellow sand here. And you get to the top, and you get this cool view of the sand dunes. Now you're looking kind of to the southwest at this point in time. So, and the evenings you get in a beautiful, on a clear night, you get a beautiful sunset to the west, and obviously in the sunrise in the morning to the east. Again, it's a fantastic place to experience it. So it opens up to this amazing sand dune field. There's 4 sand dunes here, and the geology and how it forms is awesome in terms of the wind, how it blows from the coastline and the shoreline, from the shoals to create these amazing dunes.
So we've hiked up from the parking lot, about half a mile to the northeast. The wind is coming from the northeast, and the wind is what really drives the formation of these sand dunes and these dune fields. Now this Jockey's Ridge was once one big sand dune. Is now basically 4 different sand crest dunes. They are asymmetrical, they are transverse dunes, which means they are longitudinal, so they are basically have right angles to where the wind comes from. Now the wind mostly comes from northeast in the winter months and the southwest in the summer months. Today it's northeast about 9 miles per hour. So you see behind me this beautiful nice dune system. I'm on the crest right here, and the wind is what makes it form. Now the wind can take the sand particles and move them from the beaches all along the Barrier Islands and transport them from the shoals and offshore bars onto the beach, and then take from the beach onto the sand dunes and form these beautiful mounds. Now the sand dunes are basically accumulations of sand over the time. Now the research says that about 4,000 years old, these dunes, and it is slowly migrating or moving over time. Now a lot of vegetation you see around here can stabilize the dunes and allow them to kind of build up in a certain area, but they do migrate based on the direction of the wind. So northeast and southwest, we have the west, we have beautiful sunsets, and the east, we have beautiful sunrises. Now this sand is pretty cool. It's the yellowy white sand. It has a lot of different quartz and small particles of sediments that come from the ocean and the sound area and formed over so the wind taking the sand to it caused by creep, which is where the sand particles move slowly across the surface, and we have saltation, which means it's bouncing over, and the sand can also be suspended in the wind and transported over a long distance to where it accumulates. Now, these dunes are the result of thousands of years of transported aeolian erosion, wind taking sand particles from the coastline, from the beach, onto this back area, this back dune system, which is called Jockey's Ridge.
So as you heard from the previous part or section, the wind was crazy loud and blowing, and taking it from my phone, it was kind of hard to hear me talk, but you kind of get this sense of how these dunes are formed through aeolian transportation and erosion of sand and depositing it in this back shore area of the Outer Banks. And it's a beautiful day, beautiful sunshine, and it's a great way to experience these beautiful formations. And you can see the various crests and the different angles and berm crests, and how these sand dunes can also migrate based on wind direction and move over time.
So the anatomy of a sand dune, a big pile of sand, is formed and moved and created by wind mostly. Now, in terms of these dunes, as you see over here, this, because the winds come from northeast, okay, the sand dune itself, this side we see is the windward side, okay, or the Stoss slope, and the top will be the crest, but the brink is going to be where the wind is going to move the sand over the crest and kind of like pile up, and then it's going to fall down on the leeward side, on the slip face of the dune, and it's going to fall down and create the slope. Now, these slopes are pretty steep here in Jockey's Ridge. They're between 85 to 125 degree angle of slope, which is kind of steep. It takes a little time to get out here with the sand being uneven, and the steepness kind of makes it cool to climb up on these tall crests. There's four of them. So the angle of the slope on the dune is going to dictate when the sand falls down it, and also when the sand stops falling to build the dune, which is called the angle of repose. So these dunes, again, are transversal longitudinal. They are right angles to the wind, and they are also four different sets, and they have this steep slopes both on the windward side and leeward side, because the wind changes between northeast and southwest, and you need tons and tons and tons of sand and a constant wind, which is the Outer Banks has, to build these beautiful dunes. So the conditions, the environment, the landscape, and the availability of sand creates this environment of beautiful sand dunes that we can all enjoy.
Go.
Alright guys, so we kind of went off the crest, now walking back to the parking lot. This is a great example of a erosional and depositional environment in geomorphology and landscapes, and in terms of different terrains, where you've got the coastline and the Atlantic Ocean, you've got the bay and the sound and beautiful North Carolina landscape, and you've got this amazing sand dune, this sand dune field right here in Nag's Head, and right next to the Wright brothers, where they took off in 1903 in the first flight. Bunch of wind, nice consistent varying wind directions, and you've got this beautiful amount of sand, and it kind of stabilizes and accumulates in certain areas in this beautiful sand dune area. As you can see, some of the leeward and windward sides are pretty steep, and again, it attracts tons and tons of tourists to this state park in North Carolina. And again, it's a great area to look at aeolian or eolian erosion, which is wind, and how the wind can shape the landscape and shape the terrain to make these beautiful landscapes and environments.
So Jockey's Ridge State Park is an amazing place to visit. Over 1.8 million people visited recently, and it's the highest state park visitors in North Carolina. And as you can see by this map, the parking lot is right here, and you walk over this dotted line, the trail, over to the sand dunes, which is here, and it's right next to the main highway, 158. And again, it's just a great place to visit, and an awesome site for geology and geography.